So Young Rock, which was an episode on Memphis wrestling, with Jerry Lawler and Dwayne Johnson. Actually, when he broke into pro wrestling, he signed with WWE. Pat Patterson and Jim Ross signed him after seeing him in a training session. His father and Ron Slinker trained Dwayne, and his father, of course, Rocky Johnson, was friends with Pat Patterson dating back to when they wrestled here in the 70s and were World Tag Team Champions. So after Dwayne was ready, even though Rocky did not want Dwayne to be a pro wrestler at all, when Dwayne wanted to be a pro wrestler, I don't know how it was portrayed on the show because I haven't been watching the show, but I know the story very well. Rocky was just like, Rocky was a star pro wrestler, and it was just like, I was on top for 25 years, and I end up with nothing, and I don't want the same thing to happen. My body's beat up, and I end up with nothing. I don't want the same thing to happen to you. And the same thing did not happen to him. So he said he wanted it. He's a big fan. He was a big fan when he was a kid. Obviously wanted to play in the NFL. That was his goal, like Roman Reigns. And in both cases, wrestling was the fallback because they didn't make the NFL. And they actually had very similar stories. They both went to Canada. Roman did better in Canada, but still, his career ended pretty quickly in Canada. And he, went to WWE, and Dwayne was signed. Jim Ross will have his story about what happened, but essentially, Pat Patterson went to Vince and just goes, I have found the greatest wrestling prospect I have ever seen. It's Rocky Johnson's son. And so they signed him to a developmental deal. And he came to TV in Texas, never having a match, and worked with Chris Candido and with Steve Lombardi, Brooklyn Brawler, in 2 matches. And I remember the story. He had never, these were the first 2 matches this guy had ever wrestled. And I remember I saw the results, and Dwayne Johnson beat, Brooklyn Brawler and beat Chris Candido. And the key to me was just like, what's this guy I've never heard of beating guys that I've heard of? That's unheard of. So I remember I talked with several people in WWE over the next couple of days about it who were there. And, I was told it's Rocky's son who played at Miami. And I was very familiar with Dwayne Johnson at the University of Miami because he was friends with Alex Marvez, who's one of my, very good friends. And I'd seen, he'd had newspaper articles on him plenty of times, the son of Rocky Johnson, grandson of Peter Maivia, whatever, grew up around wrestling, big talker in college football, always talked big, got into fights, but he was beaten out by Warren Sapp and did not start at Miami. He came out of high school, very highly recruited. High school All-American at Freedom High in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And so Dwayne, I just remember Jim Cornette. It's like 2 or 3 days after. And I go, so tell me about Rocky's kid. And he just goes, in 5 years, he will be the main event in WrestleMania. And I think he actually did it in 3. But, and he said he will be the biggest star in the company. This is after 2 matches. He goes, mark my words, he will be the biggest star in the company. So, very prophetic words there. So anyway, so this was about when he started after those 2 matches, they sent him to Memphis to, learn wrestling, and he was buddies with Brian Christopher Lawler, and I think he was buddies. I'm pretty sure he was buddies with Downtown Bruno from when his father worked in Memphis in the 80s. So I think he knew him, as a teenager, like when he was 14, 15 years old, and he was living in Nashville. And then, but anyway, he put Bruno in the show and everything like that. So anyway, they did a show on Memphis, on his time in Memphis. They had Bam Bam Bigelow, who was never in Memphis when he was in Memphis, but, you know, his colorful character, I guess he wanted to get, you know, that guy. They had Lawler on there.